For months, the skeptics had been relentless. They said Charlie was making a massive mistake turning professional at 17. They claimed he was getting ahead of himself, that he didn't understand the gap between junior golf and professional golf, that entering professional competition before his brain had fully developed and before he had years of competitive experience was a recipe for disaster. Sports psychologists warned that early failure at the professional level could crush Charlie's confidence permanently. Golf purists argued that abandoning the college pathway meant forsaking crucial developmental opportunities that couldn't be replicated elsewhere. Equipment industry analysts questioned whether the sponsor investing in Charlie's career had made a sound business decision or had been caught up in the hype surrounding Tiger Woods' son. The narrative being built by skeptics was consistent and compelling. Charlie had talent. Sure, but he wasn't ready for professional golf, and his attempt to skip the traditional developmental pathway would end badly. The experts had spoken. The consensus was that Charlie Woods was about to learn a brutal lesson about humility and the importance of patience. But then something unexpected happened. Charlie started winning. Not just competing respectably or showing promise. Actually winning. Tournament after tournament. Charlie was posting results that made every skeptic reassess their predictions, forced the golf world to completely rewrite the narrative about Charlie Woods' future. His performances were so consistent, so impressive, so utterly contradictory to the warnings about his readiness that by late in the year, a new question started emerging from industry analysts and golf professionals. Had Charlie Woods actually figured something out about professional golf that most other players take years to understand? Had his early entry into professional competition accelerated his learning curve so dramatically that he was actually ahead of where he would have been following the traditional pathway? Had the skeptics been fundamentally wrong about Charlie's readiness? Not just in a marginal way, but in ways that suggested they'd misunderstood something crucial about what determines when young players are ready for elite professional competition. The rise that followed Charlie's initial professional struggles was nothing short of shocking. And by the time the full scope of his accomplishments became clear, the golf world was forced to admit it had been completely wrong about Charlie Woods. If you want to know the real story behind Charlie's shocking rise from early struggles to genuine professional success and understand what this reveals about elite athletic development, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications, because what we're about to reveal will completely change how you see Charlie Woods. The early days of Charlie's professional career had been exactly what the skeptics predicted they would be. His first few tournaments saw him missing cuts, struggling with the precision required to compete against experienced professionals, and generally looking overwhelmed by the level of competition he was facing. These results seemed to validate every warning that had been issued about his premature entry into professional golf. Commentators began using words like learning experience and developmental phase to describe his tournaments. The golf world equivalent of saying a young player was in over their head. But what those early results actually represented was Charlie going through a compressed learning cycle that might have taken other players months or years to navigate. While most junior players turning professional have the luxury of time to gradually adjust to the demands of professional golf, Charlie was learning everything simultaneously: how to manage himself over a full tournament schedule, how to handle the mental demands of competing against experienced professionals, how to adjust his game to the specific conditions and challenges of various professional courses. Behind the scenes, Charlie and his team were analyzing every tournament, extracting specific lessons from each performance, and making targeted adjustments to his approach. This wasn't random trial and error. This was systematic development accelerated by the intensity of competitive professional golf. Charlie was essentially compressed coursing what might have been a multi-year developmental process into a few months of intense learning. The turning point came at a mid-tier professional tournament in mid-November. Nothing about the event seemed particularly significant. It wasn't a major championship or a prestigious invitational. It's just a regular professional tournament on the schedule. But Charlie brought something different to this event that marked a fundamental shift in his competitive approach. He came in with confidence born from 6 weeks of professional experience, with an understanding of the specific adjustments his game needed. and with the conviction that he could compete against the field. Over the first round, Charlie shot a 5 under 67 in conditions that were challenging but manageable. It was a solid round that put him in contention but didn't blow anyone away. The second round was where things started to shift. Charlie shot a 6 under 66, climbing the leaderboard and beginning to separate himself from the mid-pack field. The gallery started following his group more closely, spectators recognizing that something about his performance seemed different from his previous tournaments. But it was the third round where Charlie announced his arrival at the professional level in unmistakable fashion. Playing in windy conditions that affected almost every golfer on the course, Charlie shot an absolutely brilliant 7 under 64, a round that made veterans around the course stop and take notice. His approach play was immaculate. His putting was sharp. His decision-making under pressure was sophisticated, and his composure throughout the round was remarkable. Whenever he faced adversity or missed a shot, he immediately refocused and executed the next shot with precision. Entering the final round, Charlie found himself in contention, just 2 shots behind the leader with 18 holes to play. Now this was a completely different situation from anything he'd faced in his previous professional tournaments. This wasn't just playing competently and hoping for a decent result. This was being in position to actually win a professional tournament against an experienced field. The final round was where Charlie proved that his improvement hadn't been coincidental or lucky. He came out aggressive, attacking pins that his competitors were treating conservatively, taking risks that seemed bold but were actually calculated. Charlie shot an opening 9 score of 4 under 32, pulling into the lead as his playing partner struggled with the pressure and conditions. The back 9 became a masterclass in championship golf. Charlie didn't just maintain his lead, he extended it. He made clutch putts when he needed them. He recovered from mistakes with incredible composure. He treated each hole as a fresh opportunity rather than getting caught up in the magnitude of the tournament or the pressure of potentially winning. When Charlie's final putt dropped into the cup on the 18th hole, he'd posted a 5 under 67 and won the tournament by 3 shots. It was his first professional victory, and everything about the win suggested it wouldn't be his last. The margin of victory was substantial. His overall scoring for the tournament was excellent. His performance under pressure had been exemplary. The win was so clean, so decisive, so impressive that it left no doubt Charlie had fundamentally broken through to a new level of professional golf. Tiger's reaction to Charlie's victory was captured on the broadcast and revealed just how significant this moment was for him. Tiger was watching from home, and when Charlie made the final putt to seal the victory, Tiger's face showed an expression that combined pride, amazement, and validation of his confidence in his son's abilities. In subsequent interviews, Tiger discussed watching Charlie win and feeling something he hadn't experienced in years: the thrill of watching a golfer he cared about deeply achieve something special through their own efforts and abilities. The golf world's response to Charlie's victory was immediate and comprehensive. Media outlets that had been publishing skeptical takes about Charlie's professional decision now pivoted to exploring what his victory meant. Golf analysts who had questioned his readiness now discussed the sophistication of his competitive approach and the maturity he displayed throughout the tournament. Equipment companies that had been curious about the sponsors' investment in Charlie now saw confirmation that their assessment of Charlie's potential had been absolutely correct. But what made Charlie's victory particularly impressive wasn't just the tournament win itself. It was what it revealed about his learning curve and his capacity for growth. Charlie had gone from struggling in early professional tournaments to winning a professional event in the span of roughly 6 weeks. That kind of accelerated development suggested that Charlie wasn't just making up in talent for his lack of experience. He was actually learning faster and more comprehensively than most players, possibly because he was forced to compress his learning curve into an intense time frame. In the weeks following his first victory, Charlie continued his rise. He won another tournament a month later, this time under even more impressive circumstances. The second victory came at a higher profile event with a stronger field, and Charlie's performance in that tournament was even more dominant than his first victory. He led the tournament after 36 holes, extended his lead on day 3, and won by 5 shots, a margin that suggested superiority rather than luck. With 2 professional victories under his belt, a growing reputation as an emerging star, Charlie was invited to compete in increasingly prestigious events. He played in a PGA Tour event on a sponsor's exemption, and finished respectably in the middle of the field, a result that would have been considered disappointing if not for the context of him competing against the best golfers in the world while still technically a teenager, who'd been a professional for less than 4 months. The narrative shift in how media covered Charlie was dramatic and complete. Where previous coverage had questioned his decision and his readiness, new coverage positioned him as a remarkable young talent who had figured something out about professional golf that most players took years to understand. Golf analysts began discussing what made Charlie different: his ability to learn quickly from experience, his composure under pressure, his willingness to attempt aggressive shots when situations called for it, his maturity in handling success and failure. Other young players who had taken the traditional pathway, going through college golf before attempting professional competition, watched Charlie's rapid rise and began questioning whether the conventional wisdom about athlete development was actually optimal. If Charlie could turn professional and win professional tournaments within 6 months, maybe the college experience wasn't as necessary as people had assumed. This started a broader conversation in junior golf circles about whether the traditional developmental pathway was holding back elite talent that might flourish in professional competition sooner. College golf coaches had to reckon with the fact that recruiting elite players had become more difficult. Players who might have once viewed college as the obvious next step after junior golf were now considering whether professional competition might be a better option. Some coaches adjusted their approaches, emphasizing the academic and developmental benefits of college while acknowledging that the most elite players might legitimately be ready for professional golf sooner than conventional wisdom suggested. The equipment manufacturer that had backed Charlie's entry into professional golf saw their investment completely. Validated by his success, the company had taken a calculated risk on an emerging talent, and it had paid off spectacularly. Charlie's victories and rising reputation meant the manufacturer was now associated with a rising star, exactly what they'd hoped for when they made their initial investment. By the end of his first professional year, Charlie had won 2 tournaments, finished in the top 20 in multiple events, and established himself as a genuine professional golfer rather than just a talented teenager experimenting with elite competition. His trajectory suggested he would continue improving as he gained professional experience, as his understanding of different courses and conditions deepened, and as he refined his game through the feedback that only professional competition could provide. The golf world that had been so skeptical of Charlie's decision to turn professional early was now forced to admit it had been fundamentally wrong. Charlie hadn't failed because he lacked readiness. He'd succeeded because he possessed exceptional talent, remarkable composure, and the ability to learn and adapt faster than most players. His rise from early struggles to genuine professional success had proven that age and conventional developmental pathways weren't the only factors that determined when a player was ready for elite professional competition. Tiger, watching his son's emergence as a professional golfer, reflected on how completely Charlie's early career had unfolded differently than almost anyone had predicted. He discussed how Charlie's success had validated his own confidence in his son's abilities, and how it had been humbling to watch Charlie figure out professional golf so quickly, suggesting that Charlie was developing as a player in ways that might eventually rival or exceed Tiger's own early professional development. The story of Charlie Wood's shocking rise wasn't just about one young player's early professional success. It was about challenging fundamental assumptions about athletic development, about understanding that conventional pathways aren't universally optimal for elite talent, and about recognizing that sometimes the most exceptional performers are those who don't follow the expected trajectory because they understand their own Capabilities at a level that transcends conventional wisdom as Charlie continued his professional career into 2026. He carried with him the knowledge that he had proven the skeptics wrong, that he had validated his bold decision to turn professional early, and that he was developing into the kind of player that professional golf would have to reckon with for years to come. The rise had been shocking, but in retrospect, it revealed something that perhaps should have been obvious all along. Charlie Woods wasn't just Tiger's talented son. He was a genuinely special player who was creating his own legacy in professional golf.